Alright, BMX subreddit. Today we're going to go over Bunnyhops, manuals, and 180s, since there have been so many threads lately. Starting off with the Bunnyhop, I'm going to do some examples of sort of do's and don'ts, what not to do. The first bad technique is the double tire hop. This is common if you're just beginning, or if you're a real young guy and you don't have the strength for your bike yet. You're typically going to start with this, the double tire hop. You have both tires coming off the ground at the same time and landing at the same time. There's no emphasis on pulling up the front. Your sole focus is on just getting the bike in the air. And you'll probably get a few inches off this. Moving forward, the next step to fix that technique would be to pull up the front wheel more. So this is as you're getting better on your bike and developing more strength. Pull up on the front, get the front end a little bit higher, and then bring your back up by pushing your bars a bit forward and down. As you try this, you may find yourself landing on the back tire a bit more than you'd like, but that's just part of it. And that's also good landing technique that might save your wrists a little bit by landing back tire first, then front tire. Moving on to appropriate bunny hop technique would be pulling up as hard as you can and then pushing forward on your bars and extending your arms, and then tucking your knees upwards. And in tucking your knees upwards, you're going to want to have a bit of a scoop on your pedals, particularly your back pedal. You're going to sort of lean your foot forward and have a bit of grip on it. So pulling up hard on the front, extending your arms forward and out, tucking the knees in, gripping the pedals with your feet by scooping them, pushing them a bit forward and putting pressure on the pedals. And then ultimately you want to tuck your knees to such an extent that your butt is hitting your seat and or rear tire. Moving on to manuals, the first type of manual you're likely to do, and first incorrect technique, would be to simply try to lift your front tire just with your arms, not using your body at all, not bending down and using your knees, just lifting with your arms, which means it's going to be very difficult or impossible to find a balancing point, especially if you're younger and have less strength and can't maintain it simply with your arms. So the first step to correct that technique is to slightly bend your legs, and you're going to your knees. Slightly bend your knees, and this will help you find a balance point. You're going to use your butt motion, pushing forward and backward to maintain the balance point, and then you're going to bend your knees. Initially, you want to find the balance point with your knees. So that's right away starting. So pull up on your bars, bend the knees, put your body down a little bit, and then to maintain, you're just going to push a little bit back and forth with your butt and potentially bending your knees just real slightly. You know, an ideal manual obviously is not moving your body at all. You want to lock in. So at first you're going to be moving your body a lot, trying to find that balance point, and then moving on to one of these. And then once you do find that balance point, you're really going to want to sit your butt down closer to the tire or the seat, because pulling your body into your bike is going to give you more control than standing completely tall and having your body real high. Let's move on to 180s. So similar to the bunny hop, your first 180 attempt is likely to be a double tire emphasis hop, and you're gonna be completely focused on your spin, and in doing so you're probably not going to do either well. You're not going to hop well, and you're not going to spin well. You might land at like a 90 degrees, and you'll probably only get a few inches off the ground. And this is common when you're young and you don't have the strength yet. So ultimately, you should be getting a bunny hop with a nice front tire pull up and about at least 6 inches of height before we really start going for the 180. Unless you have a ramp, but this is on flat. So on flat, hopping into a 180, the first technique correction, like the bunny hop, is to get the front tire up so that we can hop correctly to get more height, which will give us more time to actually spin. Turning your head into the direction of your spin, your footing doesn't matter. There is technically correct footing, but I don't use correct footing, so it obviously doesn't hinder me from actually completing the maneuver. So lifting the front tire to get a correct hop, turning your head into your shoulder of the direction that you're turning. And when you're first starting, the ideal landing would probably be both tires at the same time. But when you're first starting, it's okay to land front tire first, because you'll almost emphasize the spin like a pivot. So lifting the front tire, turning into it with your shoulder, and then you want to bring that rear tire up, but you might land front tire first. Your rear end is still in the air and pivoting, and then your rear tire lands, and that might give you more opportunity to complete the 180 if you're younger or not as strong and aren't able to just simply hop high enough to do it. And then the ideal technique, much like a bunny hop, is to get a real solid pull up. A real good bend on the knees, lean down a bit, and then really pull up and give yourself the momentum to get completely 180. And like I said earlier, the ideal landing would probably be both tires at the same time. Because you're rolling out fakie, this will just make it easier for you to feel how you're going to turn out. Sometimes you'll turn out, you'll be rolling back a little bit more, and you might have a bit of a drag when you try to, you basically like manual in place in a 180. There's a pivoting manual 180 kind of in place. So sometimes you'll go to pull out, especially when you're learning, you go to pull out and you may only go 90 or like 120 and just kind of barely make it, and you'll drag your tire a bit more. That's okay. You can actually use that in your favor later on, but ideally we want to get a full 180 pivot to roll out with. So we'll watch one more maybe. Bending down, leaning into it, leaning into the direction you're going. Big tire pull up, landing double tire and pivoting with your rollback. You can put tension on your pedals when you're ready to pivot. So you actually do want to not necessarily pedal forward, but you almost want to stop the bike, like how a fixed gear person would lock the pedals up to stop the tire. You want to not roll back, not pedal forward, but give yourself, try to keep your cranks level and straight so that when you pivot, that your cranks are going to help you, as opposed to if you pivot while still rolling back, your bike's going to have more of the momentum from the 180, and that's when you might not get the complete turn and you'll land 90 and you'll put a foot down and you won't be completely turning back. And then at the end, I think I'll just try to do all three tricks with correct technique in a row. bunny hop, bending the knees, pulling the bike up to you with your feet. 180, leaning into your shoulder, landy double tire, locking the pedals to pivot out. A manual, dropping the ass down, bending your knees a little bit, and maintaining the manual with your butt moving forward. And then a cheeky manual 180. Yeah, that would be putting all 3 tricks together. So you do the manual as you would, and then you start to lean into that shoulder to do the set up the 180. And then the weird part is actually getting the 180. You're trying to flick the rear tire as opposed to hopping, because you're not going to have as much hop. But that's a video for another day. I hope this helped you out. There's my Chihuahua. And let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.